Bat Masterson, the dusty gambit. The Kansas sun, a brassy eye in a sky the color of a bruised peach, beat down on Dodge City. Dust devils danced like phantom dervishes in the unpaved streets, each gust a whispered secret carried on the wind. Here, where the railroad met the prairie, where fortunes were won and lost on the turn of a card or the speed of a draw, walked William Barclay the Bat Masterson. He was a man cut from tough cloth, seasoned by the buffalo hunt, sharpened by the card table, and hammered into a lawman by the raw necessity of a town teetering on the edge of chaos. His eyes, the color of gunmetal at dusk, missed nothing, and his reputation preceded him like a thunderclap on a clear day. One sweltering August evening, just as the last sliver of sun bled crimson behind the horizon, a hush fell over the Long Branch saloon. Not the quiet of contemplation, but the heavy silence of a boot falling flat on a grave. Jeremiah Longhorn Jenkins, a cattle baron with more bluster than brains, lay sprawled across a poker table, a single bullet hole blooming like a dark rose on his vest. His chips were scattered, his hand, a pair of aces and 3 kings, frozen in death. The air, thick with cigar smoke and whiskey fumes, now tasted of fear. This wasn't just a bar fight gone sour. Longhorn was a man with powerful enemies, and even more powerful friends. Sheriff Bassett, a good man but often overwhelmed by the town's volatile brew, looked to Bat. "What in blazes happened here, Bat? Anyone see anything?" Bat surveyed the scene, his gaze as steady as a rifle scope. "Looks like someone shuffled Longhorn's deck for good, Sheriff. This ain't no random draw. That bullet's got a story to tell." He noted the precise entry wound, the lack of struggle, the way the cards lay. Too neat. Too quiet. This was the work of a phantom, a whisper in the night. The Dodge City Wars, a simmering feud between merchants and cattlemen, had left scars deeper than any branding iron. Longhorn had been a loud voice for the cattlemen, pushing hard against the town's ordinances. Was this a reprisal? Or something more personal, like a snake in the grass waiting for its moment to strike? Bat started his own investigation, a one-man posse riding the range of rumor and suspicion. He frequented the dusty backrooms of gambling dens, where information flowed as freely as cheap bourbon. He listened to the whispers of saloon girls, the gruff pronouncements of freighters, and the nervous chatter of homesteaders. Every lead was a thread in a tangled rope, every conversation a hand of poker where he had to read the tells. He learned that Longhorn had been arguing fiercely with Silas Shadow Thorne, a shifty land speculator new to Dodge, known for playing both sides of the fence. Thorne had a reputation as slick as an oiled rattlesnake, always emerging from disputes without a scratch. Bat also heard about a mysterious drifter, a quiet man with eyes like polished obsidian, who had been seen lurking around the saloon earlier that day, a shadow amongst shadows. One moonless night, Bat found himself cornered in an alley behind the Comique Theatre. 3 figures emerged from the gloom, their faces obscured by bandanas. "You asked too many questions, Masterson," one growled, his voice rough as sandpaper. "Some things are best left buried." Bat's hand went to the Colt on his hip, his movements as fluid as a river current. "The truth ain't something you can bury, boys. It's like a bad penny, always turns up." A brief, violent dance ensued, a blur of fists and grunts. Bat, a seasoned fighter, emerged with only a few bruises, the attackers vanishing into the darkness like smoke from a dying fire. The encounter solidified his suspicion, he was getting close. The breakthrough came from an unlikely source, a nervous, young stable hand who had seen Thorne and Longhorn arguing earlier, not about land, but about a woman. A beautiful, fiery saloon singer named Lily of the Canary May, who had recently spurned Thorne's advances and shown a fondness for Longhorn. The puzzle pieces began to click into place, fitting together with the satisfying thunk of a lock. The climax arrived during a roaring dust storm that blanketed Dodge City, turning day into a sickly twilight. Bat found Thorne in his office, frantically packing a satchel, his face as pale as a ghost. The air crackled with the static electricity of the storm and the tension between the 2 men. "Heading out, Thorne." Bat's voice was calm, but carried the weight of impending judgment. "Leaving your dance card unfinished." Thorne scoffed, his hand inching towards a desk drawer. "This town's getting too hot for my liking, Masterson. A man's gotta know when to fold them. And when to call a bluff," Bat countered, his eyes narrowing. "Longhorn wasn't killed over land, was he? It was about Lily. About your pride getting shot full of holes." Thorn's composure cracked. "He made a fool of me. He thought he could have everything. I just sped up his final curtain call." He lunged, a hidden derringer flashing in his hand. But Bat Masterson was quicker. A shot echoed through the swirling dust, not from Bat's gun, but from the struggling hand of Thorn himself, the bullet striking a thick ledger instead of its intended target. The impact jarred the derringer from his grasp. Bat disarmed him, the gambler's quick hands making it look effortless. Thorn, caught in his own lie, crumpled like a losing hand of cards. The drifter, the quiet man with obsidian eyes, later confessed to being an accomplice, hired by Thorn to keep watch. He was a small-time player caught in a big man's cruel game. Justice, slow as a prairie wagon but steady as a beating heart, had found its way. The dust settled in Dodge City, and with it, the truth. Longhorn's death wasn't about the Dodge City wars, not really. It was about jealousy, about a man's ego bruised beyond repair. Bat Masterson, ever the pragmatic lawman, ensured Thorn faced the music. Lily, heartbroken but resilient, eventually left Dodge, her song carrying a mournful echo. Moral ending. Life on the frontier, Bat often mused, was like a poker game with mighty high stakes. Some played with an honest hand, some cheated, and some, like Silas Thorn, let their envy blind them, thinking they could outdraw fate. But a man learns, in this dusty, wild world, that vengeance, like a venomous snake, always bites the hand that feeds it. True strength ain't just in the speed of your draw, but in the steadfastness of your character. A man's worth isn't measured by the wealth he hoards, but by the integrity he keeps, even when the chips are down and the stakes are life and death. For in the end, a clear conscience is a richer treasure than a mountain of gold, and a good name, harder to win than any duel, is the only legacy that truly lasts beyond the grave.